Hi, um,
Hello.
good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to this conversation with Dr. Muhammad Yunus. I am Professor Anandi Mani, Professor of Economics and Public Policy at the Blavatnik School of Government in the University of Oxford. I'm really delighted to have this opportunity to talk to Dr. Yunus. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a real pleasure and honor. Uh,
Thank you, Professor Anandi Mani.
and all the students in our school, it's a public policy school, are hugely excited to have you join. I gather from our Dean Nairi Woods that you have, at the big request of our students, come to our school very early in its at the stage of inception. So I'm delighted to have you back here. Um,
Good to be back again.
Indeed. Just by way of a very brief introduction, I know that many of you are very familiar with his name, but Professor Yunus is really a multidimensional person. He is not just a banker, not just an economist. He's really a civil society leader and a social entrepreneur. So many identities rolled into one. And I guess it's fair to say that what he is most well known for is the work that he did as a pioneer in the field of microcredit and microfinance, which basically broadened financial access to the poorest of the poor. And for the exemplary work that he has done in this space, he was awarded the 2006 Nobel Peace Prize. And he is the recipient of numerous other awards, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Barack Obama in 2009, I'm sorry. Foreign Policy magazine has named him in 2008 as one of the 100 most influential global thinkers. He is the author of many books, including a book about banking for the poor, about this idea of social business, and most recently, this book about a world of three zeros: zero poverty, zero unemployment, and zero carbon emissions. And he has done, since 2011, he has been actively involved now, since winning the Nobel Prize, in expanding and building on this idea of social business and how to use that to deal with these challenges of poverty and unemployment and climate change. So welcome again. And
Thank you.
I would like to start by asking you to tell us a little bit about your background. I know that you were born in Bangladesh and you did a PhD in economics in the 70s at Vanderbilt University, but then you chose to go back to Dhaka, to Bangladesh, and you were working in a university. Can you tell us a little bit about how you encountered these people? I know that it's a historical story. You gave a small set of a $42 loan to some poor people, and then that grew over the years into the microfinance movement. But can you tell us, as a professor who, when you were there at Chittagong University, how did you encounter these people whom you started giving these loans to, and how did that all come about? Uh,
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking me back so many years.
yes.
uh, it was back in 1972 that I came back to
Yes.
Bangladesh after my PhD from Vanderbilt, and also I was teaching at Middle Tennessee State University for 3 years. Then Bangladesh became independent country at the end of 1971, December 1971.
Yes.
Immediately, I decided that I must go back now
Okay.
because now the country is independent. There's lots of work to be done.
Yes.
So I resigned and came back and went to my home city, Chittagong, and joined Chittagong University.
Mm-hmm.
By 1974, we are in the middle of a big crisis in the country. The country was sliding down since 1971 Liberation War. And it came to culminated into a big famine throughout the country.
Ah,
So here I am teaching grand theories of economics, beautiful theories of economics, but people dying all around me.
yes.
I said, what is it? If economics has any meaning, I should be knowing how to protect these people. So
Yes.
I thought economics is a very empty subject. It's a useless subject. It doesn't come to any use for people.
Yeah.
So I was feeling very empty myself, that I'm a useless person. And I see the university is located right in the middle of the villages. It's not an urban-based
I didn't know.
in campus. It's
Mhm.
right in the middle of the villages, surrounded by villages.
Yes,
So I said, I don't have to discover it. I just walk outside the campus.
indeed.
And this is the real 1,000-year-old Bangladesh. So why don't I go find out what's the problem?
Yeah.
And since I have no idea what this is all about, economics never taught me about people, about their problems. So I wanted to see if I can make myself useful in some way, at least to one person
Mhm.
in a day or something. So I will go around, talk to people, very destitute people, and see the mismatch between what I teach and what the reality is right in front of me.
Yeah.
So along the way, I learned a lot of things, and one of the things that I tried to do in a problem-solving way, one individual person problem solving, I hit the problem of loan sharking.
Mhm.
So one idea I had to how to protect this loan victims of loan sharking.
Sure.
In the middle of this famine, people are trying to squeeze out money from somebody, the neighbors, and victimize them, take everything one possesses,
Yeah.
and he or she becomes destitute person more than ever.
Yeah.
So I said that this is something I have to figure out, since economic never taught me how to do that. So I have to come up with my own way to at least 3, 4, 5 people I can see if I can protect. So one idea was, why don't I lend the money myself?
Yes.
When she needs the money, he needs the money, they go to the loan sharks. So instead of going loan shark, he will come to me and I'll give the money. And that way he will be protected from loan shark.
And the
And
rest is
I start,
history, right? Because it,
yes,
you started from there so modestly, and it grew into
sure.
something.
And then grow into a big one. So
In,
this is how the whole thing began. I
yeah.
had no idea what this is what, but
Yeah.
it worked. And gradually I challenged the banking system. I said, banking system is designed in an entirely wrong way.
Yeah.
It lends the money to people who already have money. Ideally, they will be lending money to who don't have money.
Yeah.
So this is a
So,
wrong design completely.
yeah.
So I said, look, this is what I'm doing, to lend money to people who don't have money, and it works.
Yeah.
And that's a controversy I created. And in the meantime, I created a bank to
Yes.
do what I'm doing, so
Yes.
that I can compete with in the conversation with the bankers and the policymakers. Look, it works as a bank also, not
Sure.
just a personal thing, it's institutionalized thing. And called it Grameen Bank or a village bank.
Yes.
And that
Before
bank
that.
grew bigger and bigger, et cetera, et cetera. That's how it all began.
Yes. So, that's very interesting. So, two things I sort of found interesting in that. One is that you say that your university was actually located in the middle of the villages. And, in a way, that's a rare opportunity, because what happens is that a lot of us in this day and age are often caught within the bubbles that we live in, and we don't sort of we don't engage with the people who we think we would like to help in quite the same way. So that proximity is something which is potentially very valuable. And the other aspect that I wanted to pick up on, which has been talked about, is about how you decided to give loans more to women in particular. And you have written about how you decided to do that because you found that women were actually better at repaying the loans, right? In some ways, that they were more reliable as in repaying loans. But the question I wanted to ask you there is in terms of, handing these loans to women. What were they doing with it? Because a lot of women, and since I come from India, I'm familiar with the South Asian context. They don't have access or control over financial resources in the household in the same way. So what were the kind of challenges that you faced in terms of the act of, even when you were wanting to help the women? How easy was it to give them the loans? In the sense, did that create any kind of social resistance, or from even their spouses within the household? And when did you manage to embolden the women to actually um, uh, assert their and flower and kind of let their abilities shine because of the access to resources that you created?
Well, you said it all. That's all the problems that you mentioned. That's all
Yeah.
of the above. We have to go through that. The
Yes.
reason I got involved with women, not because I had an idea, let's go and to do that. I got into big controversy with the banking system. I said, your banking system is wrong
Mhm.
because you don't lend money to people who don't have money. This is one. Then I said, look, do you do something very special? you don't lend money to women. And I gave them the statistics of Bangladesh saying that 99% of your borrowers are men, and hardly 1% or less is women. I said, why? What's wrong with you? They gave all kinds of explanation. I said, no, this is not true. You never have any idea. I'm not talking about the poor woman, any woman, even the richest woman. She doesn't get any money from you. It's always if a woman, and the rich woman, wants to borrow money from a bank, she has a beautiful project proposal and submits to the bank manager, and the bank manager flips through it and say, have you discussed it with your husband? And then you say, yes, I have. And then he will say, manager will say, why didn't you bring him along Monday morning and we'll discuss it? So it's not the question of women submitting it. It's also the question of husband talking to it. I said, did it ever,
from the husbands
did it ever,
themselves?
sure, did it ever happen in the history of banking in Bangladesh? A man brought a project proposal and the manager flipping through it and saying, have you discussed it with your wife? Why don't you bring your wife along so that we can discuss? I said, this is where you went wrong. That's why you became 99% men. So when I began, I wanted to make sure I don't commit the same mistake that I'm always attacking the bankers. So I wanted to make sure that half the borrowers in my system are women. So I had no idea. I had not done anything with women yet.
Yeah, but
Simply, I said,
how does that square with the social reality? Because to the extent that, in a very patriarchal setting, women have concerns on movement.
I had no idea what the setting will be. I just decided that the borrowers in my programs, now that I'm enlarging what I'm doing, half the borrower must be women. This is the decision. And then we try to do that. First, we saw that as a man, I cannot go to women. It's impossible, women talking to me. So I had to take my girl students with me. They will go inside and talk to the women and come back and report to me what they're saying. But they're all afraid of taking money. As a result, what is happening, if we enter the village from one side, women will be rushing to the other side. They are coming to give you money. Stay away from them. So this is the, yeah, they were so scared. They said, this will ruin their family. This is ruin their reputations and whatever it is. Even if you're a poor person, still you're afraid of being exposed to the outside world. So this is the way we started. But I tell my students that to be patient. This is not the women that you hear the voice from. This is not the voice of the women, it's the voice of the history. Because the history made them into situation where they start thinking in a way that they are not supposed to do something which is not known to them. So they are protecting themselves. Our idea is to go back repeatedly, explaining what we do, why is it important, and build up confidence, build up courage in them so that one of them will be courageous. Yep.
How long did it take to persuade them? And
it took, I'll say, we had to spend first 6 years pursuing this. After 6 years of our work, continuous insistence that half the borrower must be women, we became 50-50, men and women in 6 years. Then we celebrated, like finally we made it. Everybody said it cannot be done, we'll be under attack, which we were. Biggest attack came to us because we are lending money to women. They said, this is totally un-Islamic. You are lending money to women. They are destroying our religion and so on. So we had a really big religious backlash. But we never gave up on that one. And when we saw that we have finally accomplished this, then we saw money going to the family through women brought more benefit to the family than the same amount of money going to the family through men. So seeing it repeatedly, we said, why are we wasting our time giving money to men? Why don't we focus on women? Because it's so much better, because children immediately benefit from them. It is not the performance in financial term. They're both doing fine. The borrowers, men borrowers are women borrowers, same way. But the impact in the family is so much different. So we gradually shifted towards women. Yes?
I want to pick up on that. So, just beyond the pure finances, because when you think about empowerment, it has many dimensions. It's not just the economic, it's also the social and the political and so on. How do you see, what are the impacts that it has been able to have so far on the women? And, what do you see looking forward in terms of the path to expand that empowerment in a bigger way? So what are the non-financial impacts beyond money and finance? What is the impacts at a social level that you see that microfinance has created, both in Bangladesh and in other places, but you might be.
If you try to find the social history of Bangladesh for the last 40 years, if you try to find out what are the most important milestones in Bangladesh as a whole, not just Grameen Bank, as a whole of Bangladesh, I'm sure most of the people who are looking at that question will put women empowerment is number one. It transformed the whole country.
Yeah, but what does that mean concretely? So, apart from the financial, what does that mean? Does it mean that they are sort of in terms of
first of all, very simple thing. When women started taking money for the first time, husband was the most dominating person in the family. Yeah. Husband decides everything. Mm-hmm. When women started borrowing money sheepishly, gradually she started strong because she has the money. Yes. And women, first of all, men never liked his wife to borrow money. He became the leader of the opposition against Grameen Bank. Yes. While we are talking to his wife. Yes. So he said, no way. So it was another battle we have to go through. Yes. And we made sure that the woman has to come and discuss with us, with her husband along, so that we will not saying we are dealing with you and not talking to husband. I said, the husband has to agree. And if he doesn't agree, we won't proceed because he'll create a lot of trouble. And we had many cases when we did that, after all the agreement with the husband, we gave the money to the wife, and immediately the husband catches the wife and takes the money away. It's my money, not your money. Who says it's your money? And then on, he never gives the money back. And then we said, sorry, we cannot work under such situation. We gave the money to your wife. Money has to be with the wife. We cannot deal with you. So we had to go through a lot of this problem. And in the process, you said, what is the impact? Impact is the relationship at the beginning. The wife is way down. Husband is tall up to the roof of the sky. And gradually, when women start earning money, handling money, putting money in their savings account, relationship between the two is, the gap between the two becomes smaller and smaller. Yeah. They come closer and closer. And women's status get higher, men's status coming lower towards each other. In a couple of years of this relationship, the relationship has become completely different. In 4 or 5 years, they become partners working together. And they understand that really the leadership of the family is in the hands of the woman because she really is smart. She knows what the business is. Most of the cases, male didn't understand how it's been done. She understands everything because it's the interaction that we have with her. And she has interaction with her other colleagues of her in the center meeting, in the groups and so on. Yeah. Orientation she goes through, and she understands reality of life much better. And this is how the family situation changed. Yeah. And then you have a whole group of women in a center meeting. In each center is about 50 women, 60 women gathering together every week. And there's a center chief, there's a group chairperson. So leadership thing started building up. They make decisions. And there are something called 16 decisions in Grameen Bank. If you join Grameen Bank, you have to follow those 16 decisions. Right. And many of them are very important in a social way. Like, for example, we shall not give any dowry at the time of the marriage of our daughters. We shall not take any dowry at the time of the marriage of our son. It's almost defying the religion because dowry became such an integrated thing in the village life that you cannot do any marriage without giving and taking dowries. So we made it sure in Grameen Bank, it will be absolutely dowry-free marriages. And we made the centers and the groups responsible to watch over each other and encourage each other. Said if outside people are not willing to marry your daughter because you're not giving dowry, forget it. We are a big community. Already there are lots of sons in our community. There are lots of daughters. So why don't you start getting married to each other's sons and daughters? And we know that you'll not take dowry. You'll not take any dowry at the time of your son's marriage. So that's another fundamental thing. And you have to send your children to school.
Two things here. One is the leadership change, a sense of leadership, and the other is the social change. And
absolutely.
I kind of want to project into the work that new work that you've been doing, and that's also what you call the idea of social business that you
talked about
recently. And if I understand correctly, it is this, the idea here is that it is a business, but it is set up not with the primary purpose is not about making profits, but it is about trying to solve a social problem, right? That's what I
right.
understand the setup of a social business. Now, one question that I had when I read about this idea is, how does the financing for a social business work? So yes, profit is not the motive, but and I ask about the financing because if profit is not my motive, how am I going to sustain this, and where is the investment typically coming for something like a social business? Can you say a little bit about that? Maybe you can use a concrete example to
Sure.
clarify that aspect.
Sure. People do lots of things. So this is something comes out of them. One of the problem that I point out, all the global problem that we created is rooted in the economic theory of business. Businesses are conceptualized as something which is supposed to dedicate themselves into maximization of profit. No matter what happens, you have to maximize your profit.
Yes, and
So
because
yeah,
sometimes businesses are also adding value, right? So, I mean, typically, when you say something is a social problem, clearly there's some kind of a market failure. The market is not providing for that particular thing. There are other, yeah.
This is just to hide the problem that you create, the market value and market failure. This isn't. You are aiming at maximization of profit. So your whole single-minded pursuit of profit. You don't care whether you're destroying the world, whether you're destroying people's life, whether global warming going to kill us. You go ahead and do your fossil fuel business. No matter whatever you say, market failure and everything, it's a market success. The thing that there is a growth that's taking place, and so they will sacrifice anything just to maximizing profit. So there may be some people who are trying to add a little bit here, a little bit there, some consciousness into it, but the basic factor remains maximization of profit. When you go to the stock market, you don't ask how much benefit you're doing to the people. They don't ask that. What is the return that you give me? That's what the stock market works in. So this is what the one-sided story of business. So we said in order to solve all these problems that we created by the existing idea of business, we have to create another kind of business to solve problems rather than make money. So on the one side, there's a maximization of personal profit. We created a business with a zero personal profit to counter that. And that's what we call social business. Social business is zero personal profit. Company makes profit.
What does that imply for sustainability?
I'm explaining.
Yeah.
I said the company makes profit. Owners don't take the profit for themselves. That's the thing. So it's not a non-profit company. It's a for-profit company, but there is no personal profit, zero personal profit. We decided, or if I'm creating a social business, my decision is I'll never touch any profit out of this company. I can take back as much money as I can to recoup my investment amount. If I have invested $1 million into the business, through the business, I'll get my $1 million back. But after that, I'll not take a penny out of this business because I created this business to solve a problem. What problem I wanted to solve? I wanted to solve the problem of healthcare. So I wanted to create a healthcare program. So for example, I want to create a digital healthcare program because I want to reach out to people so that I can give healthcare benefits to them, so on. They can pay me so that I can cover the cost. It's not a free service. That's why it is business. I have to cover the cost. Yeah. So this is not a charity program. So sometimes people confuse between social business and charity. It's not a charity program. It's a business. That's why we call it social business, meaning that you must be sustainable. Everything that you spend has to be recovered, and you have to create a surplus. But the surplus remains with the business. It is not passed on to the owners because owner decided not to take that profit. And say, why should anybody do such a strange thing, not to do business, not to make money? I said, people do many strange things. They give away money and they call it charity. So I was saying, if you want to give away, you have a better option to invest in a social business. Yeah. Because when you give away money to bring healthcare, free healthcare, charity healthcare fine, this wonderful thing. But the problem is, if you're in a charity money goes out, does a wonderful work, but it doesn't come back. So next day you want to do the same thing, you have to find new money for somebody to give you so that you did the thing.
I'm going to, a lot of
Go
our
ahead.
students are sort of, keen to make social impact and sort of solve social problems like you're talking about. I'm going to open up the floor to them in just a couple of minutes and
Sure.
ask their questions.
Good.
But when we finish, I would love you to, you've told us a bunch of challenges that you had to face in trying to set up, even, when you had the good intention of increasing financial access for the poor, that you've had a bunch of challenges that you had to face and have a lot of patience before you were able to be successful. So is there any advice that you would like to give, in a few words to our students in terms of how to make their mark in the world, and, to be able to cope with the challenges that they may encounter along the way?
Yeah, sure. One of the things I usually tell the students, don't get caught up with the things that they want to teach you in your classroom, because don't pay any attention to what they're telling you.
Right.
You keep your mind free, because if you submit yourself to what they're teaching you, then your mind is completely changed. You will not understand what the reality is, because they will change your perceptions, your thinking process. They will give you new eyes to look at the world with their eyes, not your eyes. So retain your eyes, retain your minds clean. What you do in the classroom, and before your teacher started teaching you what it is, you tell them, so hold it. You don't teach us anything right now. Just tell us, how do we create a world which is free from poverty? So whatever knowledge you have, show us, and let's discuss that point. And how do you go to? Don't bring all those mumbo jumbo into the classroom. Just say straightforward. Just say straightforward. You say, how do we create a world where there will be no poverty? Don't say on the one hand, on the other hand, and this problem, that problem. Forget about it. Just show the steps how to create a world where there will not be any global warming. And then after they answer this question, in the process, whatever you have to learn those things. Don't learn the things which is absolutely unnecessary for you. They will push you into the old roads and disaster path, and you join the crowd to do more disaster for the world. So this is one idea, that keep your mind clear. Don't get victims to the old ideas. Old ideas only create the old world, which is a disastrous world. If you want to create a new world, you have to create a new thinking. Unless you create new thinking, it will never happen. Old roads will always take you to the old destination. If you want to go to a new destination, you have to build new roads. And the new roads are not being taught in your classroom yet. So you have to push your teachers to teach you what is the new road that you have, so that you can go to the new destination, instead of just explaining away why it happened the old way, how we created the global warming. This is a policy failure. This is a system failure. That doesn't help us.
Thank you for that. So,
thank you.
In which case, I, as a professor, should, if I cannot talk about the big things in the classroom, I should shut up and learn.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's useless to teach.
I'm going to, here's a question from Alex. I'm not sure if Alex can ask it, but it's here in the chat, so I'll ask it on behalf of Alex. Alex asks us, she's from Australia, and she says, during a university field trip to India in 2011, I saw the power of microfinance to help the poorest of the poor. However, I also heard how successful participants who get sometimes stuck in their progress when they outgrow microfinance, but are not accepted as borrowers by traditional banks. Is this still a pressing issue, or has it been resolved in some way?
That's true, because the financial system has not changed. So we did the borrowers and so on. In Grameen Bank, we tell the borrowers that you joined when you had nothing. You started with $10, $20 loans, but you can grow into the bank as big as you want. There is no rush to go back to somebody else. And even other banks now, they invite them to come, because there's big borrowers now. They are big performance. There's a whole credit history for them. So big banks are interested in you. Nobody wants to go to them, because their system is so different. Because the moment you go to the big existing bank, they will ask for collateral. Our system is based on no collateral. No matter how big your loan, we don't ask for any collateral, any papers, any documents, any lawyers to sign anything. The moment you move from Grameen Bank to a conventional bank, immediately lawyers sit in the picture, and they get, our borrowers get very puzzled, very confused, because they don't know what these papers are all about, what the lawyers are talking about. So they don't that they created the world so that people do not, the low income people can enter their territory, so that they merely can lend money to the rich people, so that they can become more rich, and we create the whole wealth concentration problem. All the wealth goes to a few people in the whole world. 1% of the world population own 99% of the wealth of the entire world. That's the world you call a system. That's a world we teach our students to go back and do the same thing and make wealth concentration more acute. And that we have to get out of it. We have to say, we have to redesign the entire financial system, because the financial system is the vehicle through which wealth concentration takes place. Yes. If we can redesign it, reverse it, so that the wealth, instead of going upwards to a few people, wealth start coming down and be shared by everybody. It's all in the trick of the financial system. So why don't we design a financial system which does the trick?
So this is a question here from Bunmi Lawson, who's from Lagos, Nigeria. She works for EdFin Microfinance, which is focused on education finance. And she says, well done, Professor, for all your significant accomplishments. Despite your success, there are significant disparity in women having access to finance in Africa. What policies and support should be put in place to encourage increased access to finance amongst women in Africa? How do we replicate this? So I want to link that to your previous answer and say, sure, if that's the previous system, how do we provide that bridge in a way that people can come unstuck, to echo Bunmi Lawson's question?
Yeah, you already defined the problem. So as a young person, now it's your responsibility to do it. Don't shift anything to somebody else. That's another lesson you have to learn. Don't say, oh, it's a government failure. Don't say it is a business failure. You fix it, because you have the capacity. If you don't have to do it a big bank or anything. Start with the tiny thing. And that's why Grameen Bank example is so interesting. We started with $27, and that's what we did. And that's what now is billions of dollars we handle. Every year in Grameen Bank today, we give nearly $3 billion in loans to poor women all over the country. We are 9 million borrowers, 97% women, all those kind of things. So everything starts in a very small way. So what I will advise you, are all the problems that you mentioned, design something. You don't solve all the problems, just pick one part of that problem and design something and try it out. And if you don't have the resources, find your friends to join you to make that happen. And if you can do it for one person and two persons and three persons, you can do it for millions of persons. The whole problem is a repetition. Once you can design the first step. As it is told that 1,000-mile journey starts with a tiny baby step. So you have to take that baby step, then it will happen. Otherwise, it will just keep on. We'll just keep on writing essays and books and not doing anything at all. Yeah, my picture disappeared. Let me try to bring it back again.
We can see you still, but
oh, you still see that? Okay, that's fine.
It's frozen for a minute, but it seems to be still working.
Yeah, I'm back again. I'm back again.
So here's a question from 3 of our students, Laura and Polly and Oksana, and they say, "Dear Dr. Yunus, thank you so much for sharing your experience. Recently, you gave an interview to a Brazilian newspaper about the economy and the coronavirus.
That's right.
It's time for the private sector to shift from the concept of profit to that of social business. Do you think that this is still possible, considering the current wave of the conservative approach to social issues by governments?"
Don't worry about the government. Government always do the wrong thing, so don't worry about them. You do the right thing. It's your decision, not government decision. If you are connected with a business family, your family owns a business, and when you inherit that, or you can influence your parents or your elders today to make shifts. If you feel strongly, it's your business. Change your business first. Then the world business will change. Don't try to change the world business first, then you'll do it later. That's the wrong policy. You change yourself and make it happen. If you are not in a business community, if you're not in the business world at all, start a business as a social business and demonstrate that it can be done. And the social business doesn't have to be a mega business. It could be very small business. I give you example. Suppose there are a lot of unemployment, say in Sao Paulo or whatever city you're in. You go to Barrio and find out unemployed young people. Come up with a business idea, how to engage one or two of these unemployed person in your business. You create a business just to create employment for them, not to make money for yourself by running this business. That business will be covering the cost. At the same time, two unemployed young people got the job and they're happy about it. And you get your money back, because in social business, you always get your money back, but you still create surplus. Then you can hire another person, third person, and you create a social business. That's what once you can do that, then anybody will say, hey, how did you do that? How do you solve the problem of unemployment? If you know how to solve the problem of 2 unemployed young people, 3 unemployed young people, you can solve the problem unemployment for the whole world, because it's all about repetition. What you did, just to be repeated. There's no magic about it. There's no strange. It's not a rocket science or something. Simply just taking the decision that I'm going to do it. Or if it is not unemployment, say water, drinkable water, drinking water. There is no drinking water in your neighborhood, or some places that you heard there's no drinking water. Find a way how to bring clean drinking water for 2 or 3 families in a business way. Business not to make money for yourself, but to make sure these 3 families get clean water in a reasonable price, so affordable price, and they get it, they're happy about it, they're willing to pay for it, and you cover the cost, and they understand that you are covering the cost, you are not taking away profit out of this business. That's, you have solved the problem of 3 households water problem. Once you know how to do that, you have created a seed. Everything begins with a seed. Once you have designed a seed, all you have to do is to now multiply that seed, and you create the whole forest out of it, and big trees will come out of it. So this is all the ideas, all the big things that you do in the world always starts with a tiny little seed. So you have that capacity to design that seed and make that happen. That's how it all starts.
That's a beautiful thought. Thank you for that. So here's a
Thank you.
question from Juan Felipe, who's one of our students from Colombia. And Juan says, trust and commitment are very important for both social businesses and microcredit. So how do we build that trust and encourage commitment among the actors to avoid the defaults?
Yeah, so we removed the whole idea of collateral. So there's no lawyers. You see, the way I tried to explain to the bankers what we do, I said, everything you do, we do the opposite. You created collateral, you brought your lawyers, and then after you get everything under control, then you give the money. We threw away all your collateral, we threw everything, lawyers are not needed. We just deal with each other. And it's the only thing we have is trust, nothing else. It's empty hand. So we have to deal with the trust. You trust me, we trust you. And in this trust, I give you the money, and you respect the trust and you give me back the money. Still, we give $3 billion a year. As I said, last year, we gave more than $3 billion in loan. There is no paper, there's no lawyer, but the money comes back. And that's how Grameen Bank is known for, and that's how microcredit is known for. Billions of dollars are given back and forth. No papers, nothing. So people get shocked. Maybe someday it will collapse. But last 42 years, it didn't collapse. Rather, it expanded all over the world, even in the United States and so on and so forth, in the UK, everywhere else. So this is how it works. So the trust is you going back. This legal thing, collateral thing is an artificial thing. You want to tie down the borrower. To take an easy way that I can grab everything from him or her if you didn't pay back. We said, no, this is a trust relationship. Someday you'll do it. You have a difficulty to pay. We'll understand. We'll go together, go through the problem. We will try to solve your problem. Your problem is our problem too. So we'll work together. Now the Corona crisis came. All our borrowers are in serious trouble because they have no business, no income. But they're not worried. We're not worried. We're not worried. Oh my God, what happened to my $3 billion? It's all gone. No, we are doing the same. We are going back to them. We are trying to help people. We are not talking about money. We not only we have Corona crisis now. In our past, we have a history of nationwide floods. floods, the disasters, where everything goes, your home goes, your everything, all your homes, everybody's home is underwater, flood water is running over your roofs. But we know we have to go and help them to come back. And our motto was, we explained to everybody, unless our borrowers are put on their feet, the Grameen Bank doesn't come back to its own feet. So our job is to make sure every single family overcome this, and we help them as much as we can. We provide fresh money so that they can stand on it, so that they're not saying, okay, we are in a disaster situation, forgive our loans. We never forgive loans. Loans are kept aside. Okay, as you improve your condition, gradually you'll clean up, because it's your money too. This bank belongs to you. So, and people never disappointed us doing that. So this is how the trust is built. Trust is not a one-sided thing. It's a two-sided thing. You trust them, you trust. And you have to show it over years, not just days. That trust is very significant thing.
Thank you for that. I guess I know that we've kind of been dissing governments and so on, but my question is, if a government were committed to helping this whole initiative, and we need in some sense a coordinated effort, just given the scale of the crisis in which we are caught up at the moment, do you have sort of concrete ways you think that governments can support this idea of social business and effort that you've been talking about? As a school of government, I feel I should at least ask that question.
Right. Sure, of course. Yeah. I just wrote an op-ed. The title is No Going Back. Yes. First thing, government has to decide in a very clear way, take the people along with them, that we are not going back to the world which existed before the corona crisis, because that world was about to collapse, because that world is about to ruin us, destroy us. We're coming very close to the finishing line of that destruction. Our global warming came to a stage where the world will become inhabitable. And the young people, the teenagers were marching on the street through Fridays for Future movement and so on, saying that you adult, you parent, you have destroyed our life. We don't have the future for ourselves. So you became indifferent to our life. You tried to enjoy your life rather than give us an opportunity to have our life. And the grandchildren will never have any life at all. So this is what the voice was coming right before Corona crisis began. Yes. Meaning that we are at the end of the journey. Corona saved us. We are very thankful to Corona. That world has collapsed. Now we are not creating global warming. Our air is clean. We are breathing very fresh right now. Do we want to go back to that global warming and the bad weather, polluted water and all that, air and all that? No. Why should we? That will be committing suicide. And that world was a world of wealth concentration that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. Today, there is no wealth concentration because business is stopping, banks are stopping. So there is no wealth concentration. Nobody is pushing the wealth to the top. So at least wealth is remaining where it is. If the machine was on, today we'll be worse off in these five months that we have gone through than we were 5 months back. Why should we go back to them? And the massive unemployment that is being created on the process because of the artificial intelligence will be shifting all the people who are on the job right now before the Corona crisis out of the jobs, and billions of people should be out of job because artificial intelligence, massive unemployment. Should we go back to that world to recreate all those things? I said, no way, we don't want to commit suicide. So we are thankful to Corona crisis. Now we have an opportunity to create a new world where we will not have the global warming, no wealth concentration, no unemployment through artificial intelligence. That's the task we have to perform. That's why government has to play a very important role. First important role is to make that decision known that we are not going to go back. So we have to find a way. How do we find a way? We have elaborate thinking process. Now that we have time, we are all locked into our homes, our rooms, so we can design those things, beautiful ideas, social businesses, creating investment funds. Government is running around with trillions of dollars of bailout money to give it to the old companies, fossil fuel companies, plastic companies, so that they can be revived. I said, why are we wasting our money to the fossil fuel companies to be revived? They are good that they're gone. Don't revive them. Don't revive the plastic companies. Why should you revive the plastic company? Stop them. Don't put a penny into that. So that money should be created to solve the problem of healthcare. Today we saw that how healthcare is a helpless system in most of the countries. Even the USA doesn't work, and people are feeling helpless. In countries like Bangladesh and others, you see how public health is such empty work. It doesn't have any content. So we create a world of healthcare so that everybody has healthcare, and we create social business. And the vaccine, we should be creating a pharmaceutical company as a social business, so that we create a pharmaceutical company to produce vaccines and make vaccine as an open source vaccine, rather than big companies making billions and trillions of dollars out of the vaccine, because they are just jumping around to create that thing. I said, this is the time government to declare that we would be we would be taking a common decision that the vaccine should be declared as a common public good. It has no patent, it has no ownership to anybody. Anybody can produce it anywhere they want with the guidance from the WHO, so that it can be available. So we need 8 billion vaccines for the whole world. Otherwise, if you remain half done, the coronavirus will not disappear. It will come back again. So we have to make sure 8 billion vaccines are available everywhere. Today, big countries, big companies are trying to monopolize it, make big money out of it, giving it to the biggest bidders. So that way, many people will not get it. Since many people will not get it, there'll be fake vaccines produced all over the world and make everybody miserable and charging high prices, imitating the real vaccine and giving it a fake vaccine because the real vaccine is not available. Before that happens, government has to decide, no, we will be producing our own social business pharmaceutical companies who will be producing these vaccines and make sure everybody gets it. And in our system, those who can afford to pay will, of course, pay and pay enough to pay for the people who cannot pay, so that there'll be internal cross-subsidization, so that nobody has to deny the access to vaccines. Some will get it free, some will have to pay, so that everybody gets, and the whole company, the social business company, covers its cost and continues that. So those are the things. This is the time that government has to decide, and government has to put checkposts before we enter the new world. Which are the companies who can enter the new world? Which are the companies who cannot enter the new world? And we have a serious checkpost to do. Those who are harming people, those companies cannot come. Those companies who is harming the planet, they cannot enter the new world. So that in the new world, we'll have a new system, new financial system, new business system, and businesses will not be harming people and the planet, and so on and so forth, and lots of social businesses to solve the problem. So this is the role of the government, rather than just saying, okay, let's go back, give you the trillions of dollars and be happy, start business all over again. We don't want to do that.
This has been so inspiring. So I want to take away what I think are the sort of 3 big lessons I learned from this conversation. And I think the first thing I learned is, going back to the question when students said, how can we create impact, is you start small, that you are the seed, that
absolutely,
you don't sort of think and be daunted and overwhelmed by what you see as a social problem. You start something small, which you can control as a starting point, and then that can grow organically on its own. And everything that the second lesson I learned from your narration about your experiences with microcredit is that there will be numerous challenges on the way.
Sure.
And that is going to be there no matter which path you take. But if you have that commitment that you want to have the impact, you will find a way to overcome those challenges. You cannot anticipate all of them ahead of time, but when you have the commitment, you can work your way through. And
also remember, it's a fun to have challenges. If you have no challenges, there's no fun. This wonderful feeling that you have overcome all those challenges and you got through. Because once you do something new, there'll be lots of things opposing you. That's something that you enjoy doing it.
Yes. And the third lesson I want to say is, as far as governments are concerned, you sort of treat the current crisis as an opportunity.
Right.
For change, both in terms of dealing with poverty or inequality or the climate or unemployment, and use this as a point to go back to the drawing board and make a fresh start.
Absolutely.
So, you continue to inspire us with the energy and the optimism that you have. So thank you so much for this.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you and your students.
Yes. Thank you, and stay well. All the
Thank
very
you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
bye.